I want to welcome you to our first episode for season 2 of Math for Anti-Racism with Teachers to Teachers Global. I'm so excited to have some awesome speakers here, some very familiar speakers with me today to get us kicked off for this season where we'll have some of the most amazing educators, grace our stage. And today we really wanted to just spend some time, it is February 1st that we are recording this, and that means it's the first day of Black History Month. And we did not want to start this season off without paying attention to all of the people who have paved the way for us, who have nurtured into learning more about what anti-racism work looks like, especially in education. And so without further ado, I would love, and I'm so honored to introduce my grandmother, Dr. Elvira Williams. Let me tell you a little bit about who Dr. Elvira Williams is. She is a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C. She started her academic career at North Carolina Central University in 1977. She received she received her doctorate in 1977 in physics from Howard University. She also became the first woman of African descent in the state of North Carolina to earn a doctorate degree in physics. Secondly, she became the fourth African-American woman in the United States to receive that award. Her academic journey really started from the countryside of Pollocksville to the heights of academics as Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Shawn University in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're gonna pause right there. I think there's something off the hook. Do you guys hear that?
Yeah, I'm trying. I took this phone off. You might have to go back over that.
I'll do it again. It's okay.
I took this phone off the hook so it wouldn't ring.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, you know the rest.
Yes. Okay. Without further ado, I would love to introduce, and I'm honored to introduce my grandmother, Dr. Elvira Williams, a graduate of Howard University in Washington, D.C. She began her academic career at North Carolina Central University. In 1977, she received her doctorate degree in physics from Howard University. She also became the first woman of African descent in the state of North Carolina to earn a doctorate degree in physics. Secondly, she became the fourth African-American woman in the United States to receive that award. Her academic journey started from the countryside of Pollocksville to the heights of academics as Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Shawn University in Raleigh, North Carolina. She is also very well known as the physics queen. So thank you, Grandma, for joining us today. And for the purpose of the conversation, you'll be Dr. Williams to the family here at T to T. But I want to say thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate you, today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. I also have the amazing pleasure of introducing my mother, who has also cemented my understanding of what Black excellence looks like, Shawn Muslim. I am just so excited to be able to do this today with my family, but there's some really awesome conversations that I hope to get to. But I want to just tell you a little bit about who my mother is. She is a mother of 10 children. I'm not the only one, who graduated with honors with her bachelor's in physics and her master's in environmental physics. When she graduated her college, she had actually started attending university about 30 years ago. And through so many trials and tribulations, she was able to receive her degree and go on to pursue a master's degree in environmental physics. And she spent most of her life as an educator, and where she was the principal of her own Islamic school, where she brought the values of Islam and education and quality education for our community members to the forefront. She also opened up her own mental health center called Pins, and as well as her entire home for families who were facing hardships. Um, she was able to receive her bachelor's degree a day before my sister, who couldn't be here with us, but we will make an honorable mention of her, Waheed, who is also cemented in the STEM. And so I'm really grateful to introduce you both here. And I also want to make mention of my sister, who is a really big part of this story. Waheed is an intraoperative monitoring technologist who is currently studying in bioinformatics technology. And so I really wanted to just say her name in this space because, the work that my grandmother started did not just, end with her. It went on to my mother and it went on to my sister. And it, I then was a catalyst of that work. And so I just wanted to pay homage to that. So thank you both for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're really going to jump right in because we have some really awesome questions that we want to get to. The first being, I would love to really talk about what quality math education means to you, Dr. Williams. What does that look like for you? Why does it matter, and where do you see anti-racism work show up in quality math education?
Well, I think that quality math education means a math education that's really learning the mathematics inside and out, knowing it. If it's not something that you just go over, hit or miss, but to have a deep understanding of it.
Yeah.
And that, of course, starts with being taught well, taught to learn it. So that's where the teacher comes in. It's important because it certainly rhymes with the message of an old song that says, to know you is to love you. If we use the mathematics as you, then it is to say to know math is to love math. And one of the problems is that students often do not get to know what math is, but that certainly is an aspect of learning math, to know it well in order to call it quality math.
Yeah, absolutely.
Precisely. If you know it, you love it, you don't fear it.
Yeah.
That's a very important part to me. To learn the processes involved in math. It's only possible when you really understand it and know it. And of course, there's no fear again. Yeah. And when you know something, it helps you to embrace it to the point that it becomes a part of what you enjoy. Because the fear is gone. It also, having the fear gone, it makes you feel self-confident, relaxed around it. That way you can think clearly and see that math is very basic. It's everywhere. And it's very, very important. It's important in everything that you do. We use it every day. Everyone does. To some degree. And so to know it, math, is to see the relevancy of it. When something is relevant to you, there's an affinity there that makes one want to know more about it, because it brings the person's self into the picture.
Yeah.
It's not something for, they don't feel like it's something for others to know, but it affects themselves. And so they tend to feel self-confident. Their self-image rises.
Mm. Yeah.
So it shows relationships to
Yeah. It does.
mathematical equations. They've, they can show relationships between things that are important to people.
Mm. Yeah. It can
So
it can also um, it can also provide proof of circumstance. And so instead of just offering an opinion, when we know math, when we make it akin to who we are, it can become proof of experience, when we are proposing new ideas for our community that will help us, uplift and advance the work within our community and the condition of the people within the community. And so I completely understand and hear what you're saying, because to know math, to accept math is to truly love it, and it only advances our work together. Um, so,
exactly.
you know, Mom, what would you say about quality math education?
Well, my experience with math as a very, very young person, I remember being in a what I clearly knew was not a quality math education or experience. I was in junior high, and we changed junior high schools, and I came with good academic records that clearly showed I was capable of doing advanced math. But I was placed in a regular math class, regardless of the fact that my transcript it showed that I could perform well in gifted and talented classes. And I remember being in the classroom with other students, and I wasn't being challenged because I was used to a faster pace um, and more critical thinking. So I immediately recognized that that wasn't happening in this general education classroom, and I went to my mother, who Dr. Williams, and I complained to her that I'm in the wrong class, and I this isn't challenging for me. It's not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to get me to where I want it to be, because I already knew what I wanted to do in terms of going to school. I wanted to at that time. I wanted to be an astronaut, and not being in an advanced math class was not going to help that situation. So my mother, as always, my number one support, immediately we went back to the school, and she told the principal that I needed to be in a higher level math class. And I remember him asking me, why? Why do you think this math class is wrong for you? And I explained to him what I just explained to you right now. So I felt afraid for a small period of time that they weren't going to believe that I was capable.
Mm.
Um, the school that I transferred from was predominantly a predominantly white school, and I transferred into this other school that was not. And I thought that they wouldn't believe me. They wouldn't believe that I could perform the way the other kids did in the advanced class. Needless to say, my mother spoke up for me. She was my advocate, and they put me in the right class. And once I entered that classroom and I no longer knew all the answers, I knew I was where I was supposed to be,
Mm.
because that's part of math. Math is a puzzle. And if it comes too easily to you, then maybe there's some more that you need to know to get to the point where you don't know all the answers, which is where the fun starts.
Right. It is fun. It is fun. We're gonna pause real quickly. Mom, can you wipe your screen with your scarf? It might clear you up a bit. Just the webcam part. I don't think you're wiping the web. There you go.
Still blurry?
A little bit, just like press into it a little bit and try to wipe it, just not with your fingers, but with your scarf, I think. It may just be the camera, but it's okay. You know, it's not too bad. That's a little bit better. Okay.
Okay.
I really love that explanation and that detail, because at that time you had to be an advocate for yourself, you know? And I think a lot of us fall into that space where we do have to figure out that there is a solution, you know, take some time to do some critical thinking and figure out that there is a better solution. And it takes each of us being an advocate for ourselves, you know, and luckily you had someone to go to who already knew what this puzzle might look like for you and was able to kind of help you along. But Dr. Williams, for you, like, you know, and I'm gonna call you grandma every now and again, because this is a living room conversation, right? But for you, what did that experience in math class look like for you as a student? How did it compare to how you saw other students experiencing math? Because the time where, you know, you were in class was a lot different for me and a lot different from my mother. And so what did that look like for you? What was that experience like?
Well, I guess I'm fortunate because I happen to be the leader in the class in mathematics. So I knew that it was a beautiful subject.
Yeah.
I remember, well, in those days when I went to school, in high school and junior high, and even in elementary, we had excellent teachers. Unlike you and your mother, my daughter Shawn, I didn't go to school with anything with any other race except my own race. In those early years, in those middle years, in the high school years, and I was fortunate enough to have good teachers. They told us that we could reach the sky, we could do anything. So the encouragement from the teachers, priceless. It made me feel like I could do it.
Yeah.
And then my parents, they were both very encouraging to me, though they were reared during a time in which the blacks didn't go to college as much as now. They were both valedictorians of their classes, and very eager to continue lifelong learning. And so they, in addition to the teachers, told me that you can do whatever you want to do. And they pushed education. So I was very fortunate to have the kind of teacher, both at home and at school, that encouraged me. I believe that is one of the biggest pluses that students can have, is someone to encourage them. As my daughter Shawn claims that I did. I'll accept that. I tried.
Yeah. What I love that you pointed out is about the influence and impact of educators.
Yes, very important.
Our work at Teachers to Teachers Global really focuses on supporting and uplifting and providing collaboration with educators, because they are the people who come in consistent contact with the next generation and who are trying to encourage them to be, like you said, do what they want to do, be who they want to be, and do it well.
Yes.
And they ask them, you know, to maintain accountability for the way in which they learn, and the way in which they learn from each other. You know, they ask this of students, and so that's really important. And I also love that you mentioned how not only was it, your teachers who were encouraging you, but it was also your parents, and I think a lot of times the idea might come off as though, when you came up in school, Grandma, it may have been a very different situation and circumstance than when my mother and I came up in school.
Yes.
Black history is encouraging. It is kind. It is thoughtful. It's engaging. It's curious. And
Yes.
what I love is that you kind of showcase that in the relationship that you had with your educators, as well as the relationship that you had with your parents, who had no intentions of slowing down when it came to rearing you. So
That's correct. And I'd like to add that the teachers, both at home and at school, for me, did so in what I recognized as love.
Mm.
I knew I was loved, and what they were telling me to do, I knew they meant well for me. And I didn't want to disappoint them.
Yeah.
So I think that teachers should make their students feel loved.
You see,
I know that one of the things that is needed in the classroom today is a feeling of love by the student. They need to feel that the person that's teaching them loves them and cares about them. That will make them believe that they can do anything. So you need good teachers to get quality mathematics. And it doesn't stop with the lower grades. I recall when I was teaching at the college level at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, that there was only one physics teacher in the state of North Carolina who was a certified physics teacher. The others were teaching physics with majors in other disciplines. It was just one. I said I had to do something about that. So I started a program that covered the entire state of North Carolina, in which I brought the teachers to the campus and we set up a program to teach them physics and other sciences so that they could get their degrees certified to teach what they were teaching. So when you don't love a thing like a discipline, you can't teach it with the enthusiasm that is needed to light the fire under the students. So we need to have teachers who are not only qualified to teach, but qualified to teach the subject that they teach, because they bring to the subject matter a certain amount of love for that subject. And teachers who are teaching something that is not their passion, they can't bring that same spark and that light to their students. And if you find you have a situation, and I'm one of those pioneering types, if you find a problem, you go out and you address that problem. So that's why you start programs.
right.
Like the program you're working on now, you start there because you need it.
Yeah, it's
So
unique. I do have this question as well, which I never thought about before I was introduced to teachers. But what would you say to a student or a teacher who is math phobic, who doesn't see math as something relevant to their life? You kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, Grandma. This kind of comes up so easily, and we don't really think about it when someone says, oh, I'm not a math person. Don't look at me. I'm not a math person. There's that fear around getting it wrong because it shows there's that idea that, people will look down on you because they might believe that you didn't have a certain, high level of education or something like that. And it's just so common for each of us to tell each other, I'm not a math person, don't look at me. What would you say to someone who feels that way? And Mom, I'm going to ask you the same question too. So, but yeah, what would you say, Grandma?
I would say, have you tried it? That would be my question. And of course, what I would mean by that is, how much have you studied it?
Mhm.
Or did the teacher show extra uh, love for it to the point that they were able to excite you about it? Because you can do anything that you want to do. I would encourage them. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, I was visiting my hometown, and a young man that I taught in high school saw me, came to me, and said, I want to thank you for encouraging me to feel like I could do whatever I wanted to do. That's including mathematics, because he wasn't that interested in mathematics when I first knew him. So a person has to believe that they can do it.
Mhm.
And getting a good, fresh first start with mathematics is the thing that can give them that impetus to want to go on and learn it, because it still holds true. To know it is to love it.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful subject, but you won't know that. One wouldn't know that if they had not had some experience, some positive interaction with the concept of doing mathematics.
Yeah.
And that's what I would tell them. I would tell, always tell my students, you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It didn't matter to me what it was that they wanted to do. You had to put yourself into it. And this student came up to me, hadn't seen me in 30 years, and thanked me for telling him, you can do it.
Mhm.
You can do it. And he went on and made a good showing in his chosen field. But the mathematics was there to help guide him through that, because he built up that confidence. He felt he had a good self image.
Okay.
So to develop that self image, to say, look, I can do this thing.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So,
We'll pause. Mom, can you turn on your light a little bit because it's getting a little dark in there?
Mhm.
And then we'll go and shift into Mommy answering the question. And then we'll go into like one final question. Hearing flew across the room.
one final was, this wasn't all that scary.
No, it's not. It's not.
Scared for nothing. You
Yeah,
did say you were off the camera, right?
yeah.
What the-
Open my window as well so we can get a little bit of better lighting. You can turn that light off, right, Mom?
This one?
Oh, not you, Grandma, not you. She
Okay.
can't even hear. Mom, hello? I'm trying to get her attention. She can't hear me. Yeah, Grandma, you're doing an awesome job. Awesome job.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Interview.
You know what, Suhailah?
That light right behind you is glaring. Can you turn that light off?
Me?
No, not you, Grandma. Mom. The one that's shining in the kitchen, it's glaring. Okay, two more questions and then we're done. All right.
Okay.
Do you, and really quickly, I'm going to ask you to sum that up for me. So, Mom, how would you sum up that question as well? What would you say to someone who is math phobic?
Well, overcoming a fear means becoming familiar with it. And part of that phobia can be dismissed with a quality teacher.
1 second, Mom. I think your camera's frozen. Can you
Yeah.
check? And turn it on again.
Is it moving now?
No, he went black.
Can you see me now?
No, we still can't see you. Can you see yourself?
Yeah, I can see me. I'll turn it off again.
Still black. Is it an external camera?
Mm-mm.
Can you try to rejoin?
Okay.
Okay, we got you.
Okay.
I'll do that again. So Mom, what would you say? How would you say, to a student who, what would you say to a student who is math phobic or an educator who thinks that they're, not the math person?
Part of overcoming any phobia is becoming familiar and accepting whatever that subject is or whatever that thing is. For math, being afraid of it, part of it comes from not understanding it. So you need a quality teacher for this quality education in math. And part of the job of a good teacher, an excellent teacher, is to reach the student where they are. You have to be able, you have to know your subject well enough to know where are the missing pieces for that student. What is the reason that they just can't get it? Math is a language, and languages, when they're written, as mathematics oftentimes is a written language, you have to know how to read it. You have to know, in order to read English, you need to recognize words. And before you can recognize the words, you need to understand the letters. And those letters are just symbols for sounds. The same with mathematics. So if you haven't identified where the gap is, that's what creates the fear. You find that many students who say, I can't do fractions, I can't do fractions. Fractions are just so hard. The problem is that they haven't memorized the multiplication table. Somewhere in fourth grade, third grade, fifth grade, they never memorized them. And when you get to the point where you're changing fractions into decimals or trying to change mixed numbers into whole numbers and whole numbers into mixed numbers and improper fractions and all those words that make you phobic, the only reason that you're not successful with it is because you never memorized your timetables. And there's no relationship between the fraction and the multiplication table, which is something that you did early in your math career. But now you're asked to take that thing that you never got a grasp of and apply it to this harder concept,
Mhm.
and so on and so on and so on, from basic math all the way up to calculus and other higher levels of mathematics. So when you have a teacher or it doesn't even have to be a teacher. Sometimes it can be another student, one who gets it.
Yeah.
Your peer can really help. But when you find someone who can help break that language down so that you understand it, and then on top of it, identify where you got off track so that you can fill in those holes, you find that the fear kind of goes away.
I totally agree. I
I
to-
started off as a physics major and didn't love math. How is that even possible? Because in order to do physics, you have to do math. by the time I graduated, I had a minor in math and I loved math. I had done math so much, I did it until I loved it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the times where I didn't love math, it only came when I didn't understand the language. At some point, I went from general math into an abstract type of math, and I couldn't speak the language. When I had to do proofs, when I had to really understand geometry and take algebra to the next level, it became difficult. But it was just a matter of practice and a matter of somebody explaining to me what these symbols and numbers meant in a language that I could understand it. Once I understood the language, then it became easy and became fun again as it had been in the past.
I totally agree with that. I
Me
totally
too.
agree. You mentioned math proving things, and the major topic here is relevance of mathematics to racism. I love the way mathematics can help you deal with vectors. And I'm taking some of this from what I'm hearing you say, Shawn. You mentioned something about proving. You get into certain proofs. Those proofs actually help. They're teaching you the real, the real things to understand in order to understand the math. If you pull from mathematics vectors for a moment and let them be represented by arrows, which is the way they're represented in mathematics, and let a vector represent an effort towards some target, because we know that a vector has not only magnitude but also magnitude or size but also direction.
Mhm.
If one considers a target that they're trying to get to, say several people, say the United States of America is moving towards some particular target that they need help in order to get there,
Yeah.
and they have people who exert certain efforts towards getting to that target. We can even use perhaps the solution to the virus that is sweeping the world. If all of the efforts that are being exerted are in the same direction, that is of getting to the virus, the understanding of the virus. So that's the objective is to get to that particular target of fully understanding the virus. It's best if everybody working on it are all trying to understand it,
Mm.
not some working toward it to understand it, while some other vector is going in another direction.
Yeah.
And when we look at racism, we need to get all of our efforts towards whatever target we've chosen in the same direction, because they then line up and give the greatest force. If any of them are not aligned, it takes away from the effort to reach that target. And if you leave out one group, say a certain race is left out, you then you're not going to get the greatest,
Impact.
the very largest payoff,
Mhm.
because that effort is not aligned with the rest of it.
Mm.
And if we look at that as racism, the thing that puts it off the target track, it's not good for the entity involved that is trying to get the virus, say, taken care of. Or it could be trying to get our people well versed in mathematics so that they can join the effort of the STEM groups.
Yeah.
If they don't have that mathematics, they can't participate in the jobs of the future. no matter what those jobs are, whether it's trying to eradicate the virus or whatever it happens to be, you're taking, you're putting out one of the efforts or one of the vectors that math can, you can use that to illustrate it. So prove, you can use mathematics, in other words, to prove that it's best to do the right thing for everybody involved.
Yeah,
That's one. That's what I like math for that, because it can illustrate things.
it's how we collaborate. Um, Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you. Mom, how are you on time? Something coming up?
Is Issa still up here?
Downstairs.
Okay, Issa's doing my job for me.
Okay. We're gonna split the last two questions and so that we can get you guys out of here, but we'll go into that in just a second. So I just wanted to take a temperature check on the time. Um, Hopefully we'll do just 10 more minutes. So 5 minutes for each question, no more than 5 minutes for each question, hopefully less. But I'll separate the two. Um, so Mom, how would you say quality math education led to a more just society for your family? Mom, what would you say about that?
Math touches every subject. It's a science.
Absolutely.
And being able to be in a STEM major prepared me for just about anything. STEM connects with business. Of course, we know it connects with scientifically related jobs, engineering jobs, and medical jobs. Here lately, you find that occupations with a background in STEM pay more. It's one of the reasons that many people go into those fields because uh, the salary can be higher, and of course, if your salary is higher, then you're sometimes better able to take care of your family. But having a great understanding of the science of mathematics means that you can apply that in whatever occupation you have. So now what I do is more of actuary science, but still the actuary science that I'm making a career out of is based in mathematics.
Right.
So being able to truly understand mathematics on a general level as well as a higher level, you can apply that to, to any other subject because it is a science. Whether that be something like we've talked about with something as you would think as different as project management not being mathematics, but oh no,
Yeah.
mathematics is the key to project management because it's about managing time and making relationships, connecting one project to the next. That's mathematical. Or even using that skill that I have with mathematics to tutor. I still have students, even though I'm not a principal anymore or a teacher in the classroom. I still tutor students, and one of the number one courses that I'm requested to tutor in is math.
Mhm.
So having an understanding of that allows me many different ways um, to help my family, whether it's using math to tutor kids or using math in my main job of actuary science, or even using math in what I also do, which is project management. Either way, um, when I'm fond of it, the subject, which I am, and I'm passionate about it, it spills over and allows me for quite a bit of success in the subject that it touches.
Absolutely. Thank you. Grandma, this question I think is going to come up a lot this month um, as we explore all of the different topics that we will, throughout Math for Anti-Racism Season 2. Um, But one thing that I would love to know from you is, what would you say to math educators of the world who are celebrating Black History Month with their students, not just during February, but even after? You know, what would you encourage them to do as they recognize the importance of Black History Month?
There have been so many things that Blacks have contributed to mathematics in the past that are not well known by the general public. Researching the subject of contributions to the field by people who are Blacks or non-white is something that I would encourage anybody to do, because it would be you'll be amazed at the types of things that they have actually invented, inventions.
Mhm.
I was really surprised to know just how many things there actually are that were invented that we don't get credit for, in terms of having been the motivator for that. There's one Black scientist I suppose most people know about, and that's George Washington Carver, and what he was able to do with a potato and the peanut that actually saved the South in America from having real problems with farming, because they took knowledge eventually of him and brought him to the White House and let him talk about what he had done. They promised he could talk 10 minutes on the accomplishments that he'd had with the potato and the peanut. And after about 2 hours, they begged him, please don't stop now. Because there's so many things that he did. So if we take time to learn about the things that have been contributed to the entire world by Blacks, we would have a better understanding of why we should not have racism.
Mhm.
Because without giving them the opportunity to explore their science, which is of course based on math, the world would be lacking a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm reminded now of a list of things that were invented by Blacks that they never got a chance to be recognized for it, but yet the whole world has benefited from it.
Mhm.
So take time to do things like we're doing now, exploring the possibilities that we're not doing justice to ourselves when we don't include the contributions from everybody,
Yeah.
and how the world would be robbed of certain things if they do not allow these people to get the basics like mathematics so that they can produce, because they're very good at producing. And they start young.
Mhm.
Let, don't let, I start in kindergarten and before. Start even before they go to preschool, giving children confidence, letting them know that they can produce. And you'd be surprised, one would be surprised at what they can produce, because people are born as scientists. Those children are born as scientists. They learn how to walk by observing. That's one of the first things in the scientific method. They observe. and if you encourage them. Now, it has helped my family in particular because I got a granddaughter and a daughter, the most critical of thinkers. They make good choices.
Yeah.
And I'm so elated to have the opportunity to say this to the world. My family has been very much affected by having a good background in mathematics. I was even able myself to be invited to study in research at NASA, fulfilling one of my daughter's partial dreams because I remember she wanted to go to NASA. And I had the opportunity to do nanoscience research there. And by my doing that, I see that I have, but not just that, but I see that I have inspired so many things in them, my posterity, that involves the sciences. And that makes me happy because I have helped them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That reminds.
It has been wonderful to know something about mathematics to help me with my family. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah.
Very proud. And they're not the only ones. There are many of them coming up. Suhailah, you mentioned one of your sisters that has made a career.
Who's killing it. Who is absolutely not only an inspiration to me, but it's just such a source of a wealth of knowledge, you know, and critical thinking. And one thing that she has always encouraged me to do is like take it another step. Do the research.
Yes.
Be thoughtful about what you're saying. Make it make sense.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes I have to tuck my tail between my legs. I have to take a step back and say, okay, let me think about this a little bit more. And it comes so naturally for her. And I think that's beautiful. And I want to just, you know, continue to encourage us all to be thoughtful. Mom, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was because Mama mentioned engaging at a young age, and your sister, the bioinformatics person that you were just mentioning here, she said to me just last night in reference to her own son, when do I start with him, with teaching him math? Um, should it be kindergarten? And I said, oh no. She said, okay, so we want to get him started preschool. So preschool is what age, Mom? 4? Is that 4 years old? I said, oh no, much earlier than that. Just last night, I told her every step he takes, going upstairs or down, count. When you give him his Cheerios, count them.
Mm-hmm.
Make everything he touches in terms of games, make it about numbers. So while he's playing, he's learning. And she said, oh, count his Cheerios? I said, yes. He may not be able to say the numbers, but eventually he will. Even if he only mumbles the sounds of the numbers, he may not be able to say them correctly right now, but he will. And the more and more and more he hears it, the easier it will become for him. When there's no fear, there's no phobia because you're familiar. And it starts
I do agree.
immediately.
Yes.
Yeah. When there's no fear, there's no phobia. And let's get started now. I'm not gonna lie, like it brought a little tears to my eyes thinking about that because I was just he's coming up on his second birthday in May this year. And the fact that you're saying count when he's going up the stairs. count when he's eating his Cheerios. You take that barrier of fear away from him in his youth.
Mhm.
That as he grows, he only knows math as a benefit for him, as a benefit for his people, as a benefit for his community. And he is able to see that it was such a benefit for his mother, for his grandmother, for his great grandmother, and so on. And so I think that's just a beautiful journey and exploration what quality math education can do because it is a human right to each of us. So with that, I want to say thank you both for joining me. I know that, you know, we're in the middle of our living rooms right now, and we would have much preferred a different setting for this, but it also brought the connection that was necessary for this story. And it's not over. And I just appreciate you guys, you know, taking the time out to explore this subject with me.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for inviting me to participate.
My pleasure.
And you're an excellent example of a critical thinker.
Thank you, Grandma. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Yes.
Mhm.
yes.
Alrighty. We'll see you guys soon. Make sure you stay tuned in for season 2 of Math for Anti-Racism. Make sure that you keep your mask on, mask up, math on. Talk soon.